I remember at 5.0 you said that Konika us better than Mualani. What does that mean? Kinich. I see. Uh, I mean, yeah. Between having to play pre-witch buff Mualani and uh having to being forced to watch 3 hours of drama recap about what's happening with the fucking Wuthering Waves content creators right now. Or I don't know if they do Enfield now. I don't know. I would sit through that drama video 100% over having to play pre witch buff Mualani. Like nah, but yeah, that was pre Shilonen too. Like this was the Candace channeling Sucrose is the best Mualani team days. like yeah, I'd play a Kinich team over that for sure. What do you mean? My god. No, but the biggest problem with Kinich is that when I pulled for him, I didn't expect him to be incredibly powerful, but I expected him to be fun, and he turned out to be really boring. The like quadrant spawns too late is the problem. You don't have time to react to it. So you just have to guess. Like you'll do more DPS if you just guess and get it wrong than if you react to it. Which makes the minigame effectively not matter. It's not a minigame, it's just a 50-50. Does it spawn in the direction you're going in or not? You can predict it somewhat. You can do the first one. The first one is... I think it's camera angle. It goes in the direction of your camera angle. But after the first one, it's not. And then there's also the camera movement. Right, like, I could have... Even if the minigame wasn't fun, like, trying to optimize for reliable 5e and, like, attempts at 6e could be fun. If it wasn't for the camera being such an awful hot mess when you play Kinich. And it just makes playing him annoying and not fun. Does scroll set proc if Citlali E's on an already frozen enemy? It can, but not necessarily. When enemies are frozen, they can still have an underlying elemental aura. If that underlying elemental aura is not there, she won't proc scroll. If it's cryo, she won't proc scroll. If it's hydro, she will. Because you're applying cryo onto hydro. That's the reason that when you're playing Farina, Escoffier, Citlali for your Skirk team, instead of doing Farina EQ, Escoffier EQ, Citlali, you do Farina Q, Escoffier EQ, Farina E, wait until the first hit of Farina E, because the first hit of Farina E, all 3 pets attack basically at the same time. That's going to remove whatever underlying aura you have, and then apply Hydro. And then you use Citlali's E. So you do like Farina E and 2 swap to Citlali and E. And when you E, it should be right after the 3 pets have attacked. Pretty sure camera is a skill issue. You have clearly not played next to a wall. The camera issues are not exclusive to Kinich, but because Kenich's targeting is reliant on camera position, unlike most characters, it's a problem for him. And that isn't necessarily a problem for other characters. Don't stand next to the wall. It's not like I want to, but I have to fucking move. That's his skill. Any thoughts on character Ults seeming to be half useless? I think for some of them it's fine. Like, I like Zibai's Burst. I think Zibai's Burst is, like, the perfect example of how you can use a relatively low impact burst to make a very straightforward kit much more dynamic, right? The fact that her burst isn't so good that you want to build ER on her to get it, but it is good enough that you want to use it as soon as possible, makes it so that it's worth it to learn all the different times where you can use your burst without slowing down your rotation too much. So that on the first rotation, you use it early. On the second rotation, because you don't have enough ER, you can't use it at the same time because your burst's not full yet. So you have to know when the next window to use it is. And if you have energy then you use the burst. The fact that her burst isn't good enough to warrant building ER on her makes her gameplay more fun. So I'm actually quite happy with Zibai's burst, even if it's a very, very straightforward and simple burst. Because the way that the burst gets weaved into the rest of her gameplay loop is fun. Nefer's burst, on the other hand, I think is boring as hell. Isn't that really more her skill being good design than her burst? I mean, abilities don't exist in a vacuum, right? Even characters don't exist in a vacuum. It's all about interactions. And I think that the way that Zibai's kit is designed, a burst like hers is way more interesting than if we ended up having a burst like Shao, right? That is like necessary for the damage, or like Mawika. I just think it's cool. You know, another character that I think is kind of interesting that way is Yanfei. And I wish Yanfei was good enough for that to matter. Like, Yanfei is actually, like, one of the most cool character kit designs in terms of how relatively simple abilities can interact with the game's systems to create dynamic gameplay. But she's so bad that it's just, it doesn't really matter. What's the difference between Zibai and Nefer Burst? The difference between Zibai and Nefer Burst is that the time you lose out using Zibai's Burst is time doing normal attacks. The time you lose out doing Nefer's Burst is time doing charge attacks. Zibai's normal attacks don't matter, it's her skills that do. Nefer's charge attacks do. So with Nefer, when you use the burst, you don't use the burst instead of doing something else. You use the burst on top of doing something else. And so her burst is effectively just, well, you use it if you have it and you have free time in your rotation, but otherwise you don't. And that's kind of boring. I don't think Nefer is a character that inherently needs to have an interesting burst, right? I think that's something that people tend to get wrong about character designs, right? It's something that people complained about a lot about Geo characters back in the day. Not every character needs to interact with every system to be interesting. Genshin has a lot of elements to their combat. Elements? Get it? There's 7, actually. True. You know what I mean. Right? There's a lot of different factors to Genshin's combat. And I think that it would limit creativity if they forced every character to take advantage of every element. Or, yeah, of every factor. Do you see that it's optimal to do 2 to 3 charge attacks on Columbina in teams with Sucrose because of cooldowns? Yeah, I saw rotations that use 1. I didn't see rotations that use more than that. But maybe that's what happens when you're playing well enough. I can see that being better than using Nefer's stupid-ass burst. That makes sense. Among Nefer, Zibai, and Skirk, who has it worse for their 4th slot? It's a bit harder of a question than it seems, because in terms of amount provided, it's probably Nefer. But you also have to realize that Nefer is a character that inherently scales with less stats than most other characters. So it makes sense for her to have worse options in some of the team slots. Right? Because unless good characters are balanced to be exclusively only good at one thing, generally, they'll be doing a bunch of different things, and the less of those things you take advantage of as a carry, the harder it will be to have good characters that are synergistic for all of your teammates. People cry about Nefer Force Law, but Instructor Sugos is amazing for Nefer. More than 300 EM from one character is insane. I mean, it is good. But it's also like way less than what Llama or Columbina are doing, right? But I don't think it should be as much. I don't think it makes sense for a character like Nefer to have four or three teammates that are that synergistic. She's just inherently a much more limited character. Isn't Zibai and Linnea the same? Zibai can have or synergy with a lot more things, right? Baseline, she scales with one more stat, right? That's number one. Number two, she can actually function with reactions other than Lunar Crystallize as long as you still trigger Lunar Crystallize. Nefer kinda can't. Like, technically she can do Quicken, but Quicken ain't doing shit. Zabai cares about energy generation. Nefer doesn't. Llama does, but Nefer doesn't.